Okay. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sinead Fitzpatrick-Foggy. I am the Career Connected Learning Coordinator for Northwest Educational Service District 189, and I'm here with my trustee partner, Kimberly, and she is the Career Connected Learning Coordinator at OESD 114, also my hometown of Bremerton, Washington. So it's so fun to see you all again. And this is our March meeting, and I'm so thrilled to have the guest speakers that we have today. We have the wonderful Angie Mason-Smith, formerly OSPI, now with Washington STEM, Dr. Sherry Tucker, and from OSPI Graduation Pathways, and our fearless leader for Career Connected Learning. And then we have Lance, I don't know, he might be in the running for Joe Cool, if you look at his picture there. So Lance, we're so happy you're here today to talk about work-based learning. And so we have an hour just an hour together, and it's going to go fast. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, we'll just walk through the agenda really quickly. And first up, we have Angie, and then we'll transition to Dr. Tucker, and then we'll have Lance and a wrap up. And so please feel free to drop any questions, concerns in the chat. We're monitoring that as well. So with that,
sometimes you can't. Yeah.
Right. If y'all wouldn't mind muting, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Angie Mason-Smith from Washington STEM. Angie.
Hello, thank you. I appreciate being asked to be here today. My name is Angie Mason-Smith. I'm the Senior Program Officer for Washington STEM, and that puts me on the statewide leadership team for Career Connect Washington as well. So I am here to talk a little bit about the Career Connect Washington and the system as an overview, and then be able to hand it over to Dr. Sherry Tucker to talk about kind of how it actually works in practice. And so I want to welcome you guys Career Connect Washington really was business, labor, education, and community for kids to get to important that as we continue to, and this is understanding that it is not reinventing the wheel, and that there are a lot of amazing programs that are being done, and that we are really creating the infrastructure to create a really easy, well-lit path for kids to be successful in our state. Go ahead and go to the next slide. It really started in May of 2017 when when Governor Inslee really put together an initiative to get these real work employer-based learning opportunities for students, really creating the infrastructure of Explore, Prep, and Launch to be in place so that that students can really have a sequence or path and know how to be successful. It's at page 29 to introduce students early and often to opportunities that allow them to explore and know what kind of careers that they want to go into, and really build off these existing programs like CTE programs in our that are in our K-12 system to 2-year and 4-year post-secondary programs, and really align those efforts in ways that kids can understand and know how to navigate that path. In spring 2019, it was passed by legislation that really put the framework in place and started to give funding to build programs across the state. Go ahead, next slide. So something that we hear often is this 40-70 disparity, and that 40% of Washington students gain credentials or degrees beyond high school. Yet 70% of our Washington jobs require some sort of post-secondary credential. So the goal is to connect young people to great careers while advancing their education and continuing to really build these lifelong learners in our state that can contribute and not only be successful earning family wage jobs, but also filling the need that we have for our workforce. Go ahead, next slide. So what was found really was that there was a disconnect between education and employment. A lot of times education is leading or helping students guide to paths that employment was saying that their needs were different. And so really the CCW effort, next slide, is a way to bring both to the table to start to really have that conversation of how we communicate together, overlap, and build that system together and continuously change and pivot and adapt as we identify more of those needs. The CCW vision is really to do it in a really mindful economic way with that is really creating these outcomes for these Washington students. So every young adult in Washington will have multiple pathways towards economic sufficiency fulfillment, strengthened by a comprehensive statewide system for career-connected learning. And then we acknowledge that in order to do that, we must intentionally focused on racial justice, low-income students, rural students, and students with disabilities. We understand that it looks very different in an urban population than it does for our students in those rural communities that you guys are all supporting. So how can we build this system in place to help give all of those students these unique opportunities to explore careers that might lead them back to their own community or might give them an opportunity to explore beyond that. So really being able to give both of those options in those contexts. And we acknowledge that the systemic racism has held students back, especially our Black and Indigenous students, and we aspire to build an anti-racist system for career-connected learning. Go ahead, next slide. So here's a graphic that really shows how the network works and how they continue to kind of interface and interact together. We have regional networks that are in place. We have these program builders that are building career, explore, and launch programs that my colleague Dr. will here and we also have the CCL coordinators, which are amazing resources for you. I encourage you to get to know. Your CCL coordinator and see how they can support those sectors in the state of construction, maritime, healthcare, finance, IT, and I'm missing one, manufacturing. So there's those 7 key sectors within the state that they're starting to create a plan on how to support. And part of that is understanding the different communities and different ways that kids need to learn, so that there needs to be a real regional centered approach that allows to lead up to a statewide recommendation for how to do this in small rural communities and how to do it in urban communities, and how systems can work to scale those efforts and create broader opportunities for students. And then the program builders are what we identify as those needs and work with community-based organizations or other community partners to build out those programs to fill those needs for the students. So the idea is the structure gathers all the stuff that's in place to really create that opportunity for you to get those information to your students. Next slide. So this is a little bit about the sector intermediaries to really highlight what overall this program and work is to do, is really to engage industry and understand the needs, the unique needs that there are in all the different communities. Map existing pathways, what are happening in our pathways, really looking at in small rural communities, understanding that there might not be industry in your community, yet there's student interest. So how can you create opportunities that really allow for students to still gain that access and experience, and really come up with smart ways to be able to do that? Really identify the gaps in programs and help align. If you need help building a CTE program, really connect how to create those authentic experiences to get kids interested early, and then how to get them paid work experiences as well. So the regional network and coordinators are all over the state and are in place and in your region to be able to support that. So there's in each area, there is a network director, there's a CCL coordinator, which are those folks that are working directly with within the schools and in the system. And Sherry's going to explain a little bit more. And then there's a bunch of intermediaries that help support and lift that work as well. Go ahead, next slide. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Sherry Tucker from OSBI that helps lead the CCL program. And she will share with you guys a little bit about taking from the what and the why, which I just explained, and really talk about the how this works and why it's important.
Good afternoon, Angie. Thank you very much for the introduction. Let's talk career launch. What in the world is it? And CCL coordinators. CCL is career connected learning, and you'll see that phrase often. The career connected learning continuum or set of programs begins with Career Explore, onto Career Prep, and onto Career Launch. Now, for those of you who know about high school CTE programs, you know we have exploratory and preparatory programs, classes. This Explore and Prep is a little bit different, and I'll explain that as we go. Career Launch has specific student benefits, and we're going to talk about those. The endorsement process is the action of you as a district applying to the SBCTC for the acknowledgement that your program meets certain criteria. One of which, the largest portion, is what you're already doing on your campuses, and that's creating the CTE programs. And finally, the coordinators. I'm going to introduce them to you, at least by name, and let you know who your best point of contact to change programs in your district, at your school, who they are. Slide, please. The Career Connect Learning Continuum is a form of a ladder, and we do use this to build an infrastructure that will connect our middle schools to our high schools to post-secondary, whether it's second or 2 or 4 year college or trade or apprenticeship. We start in the early grades, middle school grades, with Career Explore. This is an opportunity. This would be a program that you would have that might be general CTE, general career exploration, general career investigation, where the students are exposed to a very broad variety of programs. There isn't any academic credit yet at this point, but it's beginning to open up their eyes to see what the myriad of industries may be available and what those high demand areas are in their own region. Second is Career Prep. You'll see these programs implemented in 9th and 10th grade. And by this time, the students have had maybe 2 or 3 years of broad exposure to careers. And now they're going to use their high school and beyond plan to begin to focus their focus their attention, and begin to narrow down the field. And as they are experiencing interests, they'll choose a career prep course that is going to give them the opportunity to speak one-on-one with people in the industry, take worksite tours, learn more in depth about those areas that they're interested in. I can share, I taught culinary arts, and you wouldn't believe how many students finish culinary school and then find out that the kitchen is very hot and they don't like it. So we want to make sure that our students find out that the kitchen's hot before they have a school day. And finally is Career Launch. Career Launch is a program for juniors and seniors, and it is a four-pronged program. We can go ahead and change slides. Career Launch is a combination of aligned classroom learning. This is what you're already doing. What we want you to look at is how might your career launch programs be aligning with the accessible CTCs, the colleges in your area or region. You can partner with them to accomplish a career launch program in which, particularly in industries where apprenticeships or internships can't be done until a student is 18. This is where, by partnering with a CTC, that portion of the program, that portion of the education can be accomplished post high school graduation. The aligned classroom learning then is joined with paid work experience. It's those two things that specifically work together to create a competitive candidate. And that is where it's so important to be building programs in your area that match the kinds of industries that you have available. And this is what you've been doing for years. We know how good your programs already are. And then the fourth piece is, after becoming a competitive candidate, experiencing on-site work, being paid for it, that they'll end up with a credential that goes even beyond their high school diploma. It may be an industry recognized credential, or it may be a start on credits toward 2 or 4 year college. Next slide. The avenue, the source of assistance as you're looking to build career launch programs and tap into some additional funding are your Career Connect Learning Coordinators. There are 9 of them, as Angie mentioned, and you have met today Kimberly Hetrick in ESD 114 in Bremerton area. Walter Jackson is in Pierce and King counties. He's got the kind of the middle of the west part of the state. And then our newest coordinator is Christy Kershaw. She's down in Grays Harbor, Thurston, and she's ESD 113. So when you are looking for assistance to build your program, look at more career prep programs, these are the people that can help you do that. Going on down is in 112 is Scott Culbertson, and Sinead, you've also met here today in 189. Sue Kane is the lead Career Connect Learning Coordinator, and she is in the in Northeast, sorry. She's in Northeast ESD, Chelan and Douglas counties, and you can see. And then Jessica Dempsey in 101. James Kindle is here today. He's in 123. And Shelley O'Neill is right in the middle in 105. These individuals, some of whom are here today, and you have an opportunity to see who they are your best point of contact for looking into modifying or enhancing the CTE programs that you are already have running in your schools. Next slide. And now that you know a little bit about how to get programs, Lance is going to tell you more about what the work-based side of the program is all about. Lance?
Thanks, Sherry. And I do have screen sharing, so I'm going to open my presentation, hopefully, if I have it set up right. So again, as Kimberly mentioned, always a learning process. Are you folks able to see that?
Yep.
Okay. Let me get it into presentation view here for you. Oh, now I got to go down. Okay, is that working? Did it advance? Mine doesn't look like it advanced.
Nope. We got
Uh-oh.
the front slide.
Sorry about that. Oh, bear with me, folks. Sorry. Okay, so today actually going to be talking to you about a couple different things, but that are very much alike. Want to start by talking today about work-based learning in regards to Perkins reporting, as that's fairly new and a bit confusing when we've talked about work-based learning somewhat differently in work experience opportunities for the past 8 years that I've been here at OSPI. So just wanted to reintroduce a quick definition from our Perkins 5 application of what work-based learning is, as a sustained interaction with industry or community professionals in rural workplace settings to the extent practical or simulated environments in an educational institution that foster in-depth firsthand engagement with the tasks required in each career field that are aligned to curriculum and instruction. So with the Perkins reporting, some of you may have heard our presentation at summer conference and other locations, but wanted to talk briefly about the 9 validation indicators. So the first 5 are shown on this slide, which is career search and job interview with a job shadow in a related course area. The second, or number 2 validation indicator, is the guest speaker series with an assigned career mentor or structured field trip to a related job site. So again, back to the definition, this is referring to their courses of study or programs of study. Number 3 is the school-based enterprises. 4 is placement unpaid internships. 5 are paid internships. Apprenticeship preparation programs or registered apprenticeships fall in and are reported under the CEDARS reporting indicator number 6. 7 for ownership or entrepreneurship. 8 for healthcare. 9 for courses related to service learning projects. And then a 10 would be your reporting indicator if they didn't participate in the above activities or could not obtain. Number 11 is just another one that if they weren't at your district long enough. So again, and I've passed on to Kimberly the definition of each of these. So there's a handout that she'll be sharing hopefully with all the participants that show all of it on how that's happening, or the definitions of each of these for further clarification. But today wanted to talk more about our work site or component of work-based learning, which is our work site learning, which is actual placement of jobs in the workplace, as has been referenced, a key component of a lot of the Career Connect activities. When we talk about worksite learning, want to just reinforce the definitions. There are 2 types of worksite learning: instructional, meaning that the learning experience takes place in a community or school if the experience is comparable to that in the community, as an embedded part of the specific course content where students perform tasks in order to gain desired skills, competencies, qualifications, or industry certifications through direct instruction. And I'd like to call people's attention to the key component here is that it's embedded as part of a specific course, which I'll be making reference to in a few minutes when we talk some more about that. Cooperative worksite learning is what I refer to, and people hear me reference oftentimes, what I call our 888 SIPs, which students get credit for actual work experience. And the definition here shares for us that it means it's a learning experience where students practice in the community and again, or school if experience is compatible to that in the community setting, the skills and knowledge learned in the classroom. An employer-employee relationship must exist if the work performed by the student results in a net increase in productivity or profitability for the business and organization. So the instructional worksite learning, I'm going to share some examples and talk to you a bit about, are those that are embedded in an existing course in CTE. Cooperative is when they're placed in a job site, paid or unpaid, and using and applying those skills from the classroom in the actual job setting. So how is this different than the first 3 slides I shared? Just a reminder, all CTE courses have to now report through CEDARS what work-based learning is a component of their course. And that would be in the CTE course standards that require a work-based learning component of all CTE courses. So we're just now, even though it's been part of our standards for years, we're now going to begin reporting what type of work-based learning that is. And that's 1 through 9 of those indicators earlier. And that Kimberly will be sharing the definition document that's been prepared by our office of those 9 indicators. So in thinking about instructional versus cooperative, for example, if your district is teaching a project management course, they might embed instructional worksite learning by having guest speakers, by doing site visits, by having mentors for some of the students, or providing field trip opportunities to those areas where they are using project management, where it's intermittent and periodic and part of an existing course and would then be reported under SIP code 52211 in the reporting process. So again, it's embedded into the class, part of their frameworks, not separate or independent from. Whereas the 888 SIP codes here that I mentioned are the cooperative worksite learning, and those are the ones where students are placed in a particular work location. Now, the thing that we have to keep in mind here is to offer an 888 SIP, the instructor has to have the worksite learning coordinator endorsement. And this is an endorsement that is can be applied for through the certification office. And I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. But again, in taking a look at the difference between our instructional versus cooperative. So certification that's required for the 88 SIP codes is a certification that can be added to. It's an endorsement added to your existing, continuing, or initial certification in CTE. So again, the challenge is that it's not a endorsement that can be issued on a conditional basis unless it meets particular criteria. But we cannot issue them on, we used to issue them on a fairly regular basis, which we discovered was in conflict with the law. And so it is a requirement that those people have that endorsement in order to oversee those worksite placements. So again, this just talks about the courses that are required for that, obtaining that endorsement are usually through a Plan 1 college or university program and part of your Plan 2 programs. So a lot of folks may not have applied for their endorsement at the time that they received their initial or continuing cert, but they've had the course they need in order to qualify. So I tell folks that even if you don't have that endorsement, check and make sure on your transcript if you've got a qualifying course on cooperative coordination techniques or something in lieu of that, then you can have that added. If you haven't, then you need to take the appropriate course to add it to an existing cert. And again, Kelly Bennett is the contact person in the certification office who manages and oversees most all of our CTE applications. And I apologize, this slide is a little bit blurry, but just wanted to share with folks there are 888 SIPs for most all program areas. And so what a district would want to be doing is taking a look at their program or employer base of their area or region and selecting the most appropriate that they might have the most kids participating in their programs. So it would not be the expectation that all schools have all of these SIP codes, but most districts, even the size of Renton, have 4 or 5 888 SIPs that then all students register in if they're participating in cooperative worksite learning. I've also provided Kimberly with the actual template. So this is a link that when you get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to hopefully link. Oh, this link may not work because I will have to send the document to link to because it's not posted currently. But Kimberly does have a copy of that and we'll be sending it out for folks. If you don't get it or it doesn't work, be sure to send me a note and be happy to share that template with you that was developed in 2017. We do have to have a completed framework for all 888 SIPs, and they must meet standard or exceed standards of any other applications. So they do have to be completed templates. Did want to throw in just a quick notification. If your district is working in health sciences, you need to be in contact with Mariana Goheen. Because with the health sciences, there are some additional requirements for worksite learning due to the scope of practice, licensure requirements, et cetera. So most of our programs are fairly common and can meet the same competencies and standards, but for health sciences, there are some extra expectations. And so you'd want to be working with Mariana on that. So the difference between participating and registering students and reporting. For those that have not had a work-based learning program, the thing you need to keep in mind is it's reported a bit differently on the 888 SIPs in that you actually report hours worked, not seat time. So the students earn credit, 1 credit for 360 hours of worksite experience. And so you track that based on the hours the student works for that period. So if you're reporting monthly attendance reporting, you anticipate the hours the students are working, and then that should be adjusted each month through the reporting office and apportionments. So again, I've included Becky McLean's contact here. She is the guru on reporting for work-based learning and has a lot of helpful hints. And you'd want to be taking a look at that enrollment reporting handbook that she prepares each year on how to report work-based learning appropriately. And I think that takes us, Kimberly, to the last slide. So I may have rushed through that because I knew we were a bit short on time. Wanted to have plenty of time though for questions. So I'm going to quit sharing at this point and go. Hopefully I can quit sharing at this point.
Okay, first of all, we'll go ahead and I'm going to ask that we have plenty of time. So let's go ahead and take this time to ask questions of our speakers. You may ask them in the chat or just unmute and ask directly. No questions? I can't believe that. Mark, I know you have a question. Okay, here we have one. If we have no CTE certified staff, how do we get started?
So if we're talking worksite learning, you would need an initially certified instructor or continuing certified CTE instructor in order to get the endorsement if you are wanting to use CTE and claim CTE funding for that work-based learning experience. The other thing people need to keep in mind is work-based learning does not have to be CTE. It can be a district offered course. You wouldn't receive any enhanced funding, but the process should be similar whether it's CTE or non-CTE.
Okay, and how about for career choices? How would they get started if they did not have a CTE certified staff?
So that one, again, in order to get the career choices endorsement, you have to have the work-based learning endorsement. So it would be the same issue and challenge. It'd be the need for continuing or initial CTE certificate with a work-based learning endorsement, and then the career choices can be added if the work-based learning endorsement is issued.
So do they have to have a work-based learning component with the career choices?
Career Choices is a CTE course, so it is intended for career exploration and discovery, and should have a component of work-based learning, one of the 9 indicators now used for reporting for Perkins.
So that can be a speaker or a site visit.
Right.
Doesn't
Correct.
necessarily have to be a working experience.
Right.
Okay, great. Another question, would you suggest that when applying for a career launch, that a program also use the endorsement development time to become WBL certified?
Sherry, is that on the career launch?
Yes, that's a good question, Julie. Thank you. The point of applying for work-based learning would be a duplicate effort to the paid work experience that you're already getting with career launch. So I think you're making extra work for yourself. Angie, would you make any other comment?
Yeah, I would just add that if you have the things in place for one, you probably have the things in place for the other. So taking the time to look at how to streamline that, and you're right, not make extra work for yourself, but if you have both in place, it would qualify for both, correct?
Right. So I might just add with that a little bit of clarification too, is that, so with both the career launch work-based learning, it can be an 8-8 SIP, but it would not necessarily have to be. So again, it depends on the district and the school. It's kind of like apprenticeships. If you have an apprenticeship program that your program feeds into, if they're doing part of their youth apprenticeship hours while they're still in high school, they can actually get worksite learning credit as well as the hours that they're accumulating for their apprenticeship. But that would be set up, the school would set that up as a separate course and would be independently tracked as any other worksite learning experience. So yeah, there's a lot of crossover and integration. And the thing to keep in mind is that if you're giving credit for that work experience, the district must have an appropriately certified instructor and approved framework.
Lance, Sandy Rossmeyer from Rainier.
Hello, Sandy. How are you?
And good. You understand that as a CTE director, I teach 6 periods a day, and I do CTE director on the side. So I'm not, and I've done this for 30 years. So my question is really about, I'm not sure why we're doing this. If we already have work-based learning and we have work sites established, why are we, what is, I missed something somewhere because I'm not sure what this is all about.
When you say this is all about?
The CCW, the CCL, all the acronyms.
Okay, so a little bit of history I might be able to share and give you a little bit of clarification, Sandy. So what has happened is we have some growing programs in the career launch areas where districts can apply to have their programs identified as a career launch, which then makes them eligible for potentially more dollars to support. But you're right, we've been doing work-based learning forever in CTE. This is just another option for districts to take a look at some additional funding and support, as was mentioned in each of the previous presentations. The amount of support that's available for some of those programs is more than what we can sometimes provide in our current system. Does that help?
Yes, huge. Thank you so much.
Angie, and
yeah, and I would say thank you for saying that, because I think that is the confusion a lot, is this is new. So I think it's important to hear from CCW perspective as absolutely that hard work is already being done. That career prep is already being done in the CTE classrooms. right? The enhancement for it is that we're building additional opportunities in Explore and Launch to help. So let's say you were to identify that in your region, you have maritime, but there isn't a lot of opportunities for kids to engage in it. So you can work with your CCL coordinators to say what authentic Explore experiences can we create so that kids know about all the options in maritime, right? That then lead to your maritime program in your high school, and then leads to this, to the work-based learning options and where you can work with industry to create that. So really it's intended to help align the system better. But you're right, the different language that is used at times creates confusion. And so that is a really important question, because the intent is to create additional resources and help support the work and not feel like one more thing.
You may have noticed that Angie made the comment of the amount of students we have going on to post-secondary education and those who, how many jobs we're going to need post-secondary. The point of us having this continuum or this set of programs is so that we can help you connect the different levels together to be able to move our students successfully out through high school and into areas that they're going to be able to thrive in. Does that seem less muddy?
I think it's okay. I wanted to just jump in just to provide a practical example. So in my region, which is, I serve Snohomish to the border, Canadian border. We have several community colleges who have secured career launch endorsement for their IT programs of cybersecurity, software development, and then there's also this computer application specialist. So what I'm doing is working to identify CTE programs that have these courses and connect them with the community college in our region to secure expanded dual credit articulations. And so with the Career Launch endorsed programs, a number of these programs are already working with employers, some employers that our CTE directors haven't yet connected with. And these students are being able to step into paid internships that maybe haven't been available. So that's really exciting to be able to not only, start to fulfill some of those computer science mandates that we know need to be in place by fall quarter, to ensure that students are getting that quality computer science class, but then also that it's leading into some of our high wage, high demand programs in a meaningful way at the community college level. And so this work is still ongoing, but a lot of our community colleges are using this as a way to sort of begin to leverage and expand our dual credit articulations, which to me is very exciting because as y'all know, because you work in this world, it can be really challenging to try and get an articulation through, and especially one in computer science. So that's just one example. And I know each region is different and each approach is different, but I thought that might be a useful example.
Yeah, I think that's a great example and also a reminder of that we know that especially I would say in our kind of small rural communities is that, you CTE teachers are really doing everything and wear so many hats. And so the reminder is that there are people that want to help support and create those opportunities for your students that then you don't have to do, right? That is time that you don't have to spend to create those individual opportunities, and that there's some people that are there to help support and lift that as well. And so I think being able to build those relationships with those CCL coordinators and understand so that they know, what are your student needs in your building, and how can you build a really clear continuum and pathway that allows for them to explore, gain that experience in prep, and then get that paid work experience beyond that as well. So.
Kimberly, do you mind if I
Please.
in for a second?
Paula.
Sorry, I'm not on the panel, but in the work I've been leading for OSPI around high school beyond planning and graduation requirements and, you know, all of the pieces that you all play a role in, I really appreciate your question, Sandra, because some of the things we're looking at is student engagement for one. You know, prior to COVID, we had 1 in 3 students saying that they thought what they were engaging in their school was going to be meaningful in their post-secondary world. And that's no disparagement on our teachers or our schools as much as it is, how are we helping students really see the connection between what they're learning in the classroom from a skills perspective as well as a content perspective, and how is that going to support them in their movement out of our system into their next first step? This all really coincides with graduation pathways and the acknowledgement that we've got to move beyond assessments and really thinking about ways to support our students in exploring things that we can give them access to if we can figure out ways to build the programs that they're interested in. This is where my passion, of course, and Kimberly and I are in this space a lot together around the high school and beyond plan comes in. How can our Career Connect learning coordinators work with you all to look at your current programs, to look at what the students are putting in their high school and beyond plan as careers of interest, and use that to impact programming in your schools, to impact what kind of connections you can make in those communities, either your own or close by if you're in a community that's a little smaller, to really give students access to what they're telling us, hopefully, is something of interest for them. And I'll just be honest, Sandra, it wasn't until I really started using the high school and beyond plan as a school counselor to serve students in that way, to connect them to things that they were saying they were interested in, that I got a different level of engagement with that process, which then was like this spiral up of better engagement from students. So there's better information in the high school and beyond plan, which means we can provide better programming and access to opportunity, which just kind of took everything to this different level of, okay, this isn't just a graduation requirement that I have to do. This is a way I can communicate to my staff at my school and tell them what I care about and what I'm curious about and what I'm interested in. And they can then use that to serve me better in terms of course and program and speakers and community connections. So thanks for asking the question. I think you'll notice there's a lot of people on this call with a lot of passion in this space, and they just want to help you guys do this work because we know you're so overloaded.
The high school and beyond plan is the best vehicle for student voice, choice, and advocacy. And I can't say it enough. Starting at middle school is very, very important. It needs to be a living document, and it needs to be used by all teachers in the school. And we can talk to you about how that can be done in different ways in other sessions. But, you know, if you think about what the perfect CTE pathway needs to include, the high school and beyond plan is that foundational piece. And then you want to make sure you max out your equivalencies, your dual credits, your IRCs, and then paid meaningful work experience. And what Dr. Tucker Sherry was talking about is that if you have paid meaningful work experience aligned with your CTE programming, that becomes eligible for a career launch. And there are incentives that come along with that career launch. And so we're trying to get all of our students to have access to educational justice, as Angie said, which means access to very strong, robust CTE programs. And those of you that are in small and rural schools, the people on this call, we have worked with a lot of you individually to problem solve for your specific areas because you are so stretched. And so when we say reach out to us, we really do mean that, because we will come and meet with you and talk about how we can make that happen for your school and your community. Also, I want to make sure to say that there have been some questions we haven't answered yet. We'll try to get to them. If you are on the call, calling in, I will make sure to save the chat, and all the questions in the chat, we will make sure have an answer that goes along with it in the follow-up email. So fear not, you will get this information. The attachments that Lance was referring to is in the presentation link, and I'll drop that back in the chat. They are all linked there for your information. Also, Kim wanted you to know that you can use ESSER and Title II funds to support training needs for staff to get endorsed. So that's pretty great, because I don't think we can use Perkins for that. So unless I'm wrong, but I don't think we can. And is that right, Lance? We cannot use Perkins for certification?
If it's, I believe it can if it's part of their professional development plan.
Okay.
But Sam, I believe Sam is on the call. She might be able to give us a better clarification on that one, but I may have to check as well and get back to you on that one for sure, though.
We'll get back to you with the follow-up email that we send. Another question here was, if we have career choices in place and we are attempting to launch a work-based learning, but have no certified staff, does this just shut down our efforts until we find staff that are or can be certified? So
again, the work-based learning can be issued or offered by the district so that it doesn't have to be CTE. The advantage of it being CTE is with the appropriately certified person and courses, you can get that enhanced funding. But there's nothing stopping a district from offering work-based learning experiences to their students through basic ed either. Did that answer it specifically enough, or do I need to add some clarity?
That was Chelsea. Chelsea, did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. After I had typed it out, you guys kind of answered it. So I appreciate that. So basically, as long as if we aren't looking for those enhanced funds, then we can keep things as are until we find the staff. But if we want to get the funding, then we need to get the certified staff that have that work-based learning endorsement.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you work with me, I will say, please don't leave money on the table ever. Do everything you can to go maximize your funding. And your CCL coordinators can help you do that as well. That's what we're here for. We're here to problem solve. We are just rolling out in our ESD a CTE collaborative where districts can buy in and have support with Perkins work, so that some of our rural schools that have never had Perkins before now will have that opportunity should they wish to take advantage of that. So please consider all your funding that you can get, because I think you can definitely use it. Other questions or concerns? You have a lot of experts on here. Take advantage of them. Okay, anyone else have anything to add before I finish up the meeting with some comments?
I would just say thanks again for the invite, Kimberly. Appreciate the opportunity to share information with folks. And also my contact information is readily available through the presentation as well. So feel free to drop me a line, or if there's questions on specific workspace learning issues, happy to answer those via email and or phone. So we just want to thank everyone for the work they're doing out in the districts and really carrying the weight for us. So thank you for the work you're doing, and glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Lance. We've got another question here for you. How does this function in our juvenile rehabilitation schools serving incarcerated youth? In my experience, I have seen this covered by staff on the juvenile rehab side, not the school district side. Are there resources that you are aware of for serving these populations?
And that one I'd have to do some follow-up, because I know that in some of the institutions, there are employment opportunities for the staff to participate in. And if those were in line with their high school and beyond plan or their program of study, that would fit very well. If it's a job opportunity outside, I think there's, I'm not aware of any funding, except I know that I've seen some grant funding out there for institutional ed. So we do have a contact at OSPI that if you send me an email, I can put you in touch with our institutional ed persons, and they might be able to provide some additional assistance in that regard.
Also, your CCL coordinators, and as a statewide CCL coordinator team, we are working with DCYF to figure out and try to problem solve how we can reach some of our foster youth, our homeless, our incarcerated youth. So that is something that we are working on at a statewide level. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but we are aware it's a big deal and it's very important. And Sonia, I see that you have a question.
Yes, and it's probably been answered in one of the texts that has been sent, or one of the pieces of information that Ms. Reichdahl sent. But we're in Skycomish, which is Puget Sound ESD. And I've reached out for some information, and he was reaching out to someone else to find out further information. But we have no CTE certified teacher, and our closest place to take students to get CTE is in Everett, which is over an hour away. So they miss all day of school. So we're just kind of trying to figure out what we need to do with our current staff to get somebody CTE certified, because we cannot hire anybody else. And like next year, we'll probably only have 7 high school students. So, but they have to have that CTE credit. So that's kind of where we're stuck on what do we do for these kids.
Sonia, I may have an answer for that. There's a program that one of the coordinators is implemented called flipped internships. We don't have to move the students, we move the employer. And that may be a better option for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. What ESD are you in?
We're in Puget Sound.
Okay.
We're
Sonia, I'll make sure that your CCL coordinator connects with you.
okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Libby, thank you for being here. I see that you are you're with DCYF, so thank you for being here. I just want to thank our speakers for taking the time to present to you today. I know it was a lot of information and it kind of gets confusing at all these different levels, but the point of these forums, these workshops, is to get people together and to start sharing ideas. And I think it's really important that those of us that are working to support you understand what the challenges are so that we can help problem solve. So we will be continuing this series of workshops next year as well. And in the survey that I put in the link, which I will do it again, we asked you for some ideas of things that you would be interested in learning about. So I have that here. And then I also just want to share real quickly my screen again, because I'm going to show you the, oh, here we go. So I'm just not so good at this. I want to show you in our presentation here. This here is our wrap up, and with that is our survey. But I also wanted to draw your attention. I do a newsletter. If you're interested, you just click here to sign up. We have 2 more workshops coming up this year, and we welcome your participation. They're listed here. And then here are the resources that I have been given or we thought might be helpful to you. So just know that they're there and everything is linked within the presentation. So with that, I will ask if there are any other comments or questions. Okay, if you have any questions you want to ask of us or the presenters, feel free to stay on. And everyone else, have a wonderful day. We're getting you about 2 minutes early. So thank you for attending and for being here. And thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Kimberly, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So we currently have career choices in place for middle and high school. It's not a CTE class in middle school, but I'm wondering, because I can't get I only have conditional certified staff for our teachers. Can we still claim career choices as a CTE course, even without being able to get that endorsement on our conditional certs, because we're all just conditional? Or do we just have to give that as a general elective for now until we get someone that we can get certified in that work-based learning and career choices endorsement?
Yeah, so I can grab that one, Kimberly. So it would be an audit finding to answer your question pretty blatantly, and I don't mean it to sound negative, but it would be an audit finding, because to claim funding, the two requirements are an approved framework and a certified instructor teaching the course. So it would be a audit finding if you were audited. And so my recommendation would be that you not claim it until you have appropriate certified staff on board, or we figure out a way for that to happen. But again, the career choices can no longer be a conditional certification. It must be part of an endorsement with the work-based learning with an initial or continuing cert. So.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I had my mind right so I can report it to my admin as we need to take this off our CTE right now before I teach it next quarter. And so before I teach it, I want to make sure that it's going in correctly.
Right, and there's nothing wrong. It's again, a good course for students to have. It's just, it wouldn't be eligible for the enhanced funding at this point without the appropriate endorsements.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So to clarify, Lance, if you are conditionally certified, you cannot claim Perkins funding.
No. No, we have a lot of teachers conditionally certified.
That's what I thought.
For this endorsement in work-based learning, which is needed to get the career choices, we can no longer issue conditionals only for those courses, because we had some people that were getting conditionally certified without the initial or continuing cert. And that's where the auditors brought to our attention and said, you can't do this. And so we had to pull back a lot of those conditionals. So yeah, so it's not the conditionals that prevented, it's this particular endorsement's not available on a conditional, except in unique cases. And there are some cases where they could, but it's when they're enrolled in a program and have taken the one course as part of their program with a completion within a year. And so then sometimes they will do it for 1 year, but the general conditional cert is not issued any longer for work-based learning or career choices.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. Always happy to when we can.
Anyone else have some questions they would like to ask? Okay, well, I guess with that, I'll say thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you,
in
Kimberly.
touch.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Bye now.
Bye. All right, Megan, did you stop the recording?